Hello, everyone. This is Joseph Schooland. I am a Populi account manager here. So you might know me. We might have interacted before. If not, you might know let's make sure I'm unmuted. You might know our other account manager, Nick Holloway. He might be your account manager. I might be your account manager. Not sure. But you might also have reached out to some of our support team and got to know them. We have certain people who are on the front lines of our support. So you'll probably get to know them and hear their voices more often. And hopefully you're starting to get to know us and get plugged in and enjoying Populi and the interactions with the people here. We today are going to do Introduction to Bookstore. So I'm going to go through how to set up your bookstore if you want to do that. I have on my end a little Q&A box that lets me process questions as they come through. So if you have a question, click on the Q&A button on your end and enter them in there. The chat button, it's a little harder for me to process questions depending on how busy it gets. And so keeping it to Q&A is great. And I might answer them partway through, or I might wait till the end, but you can enter them whenever you want, because I know that sometimes you just got to write it down before you forget it. So don't worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video and share my screen. Let me go ahead and log in to this fake school right here. We're going to be spending some time here in Bookstore. But before we do that, if you don't learn anything else, the most important thing you need to learn, if you've been to one of these before, you've heard me say this before, but the most important thing you need to learn is how to find help. And the way you do that is up here in the top right, there's a little help button. And you can, if you're the type who likes to research on your own, search the knowledge base. If you want to reach out to someone on the support team, open a support request. If you've already opened a support request and you just want to see how it's doing, you can view those here. We also send all of our replies to your email, so you could check your email. If you have an idea for a feature request, you can do that here. If you want to interact with other Populi clients, you can do that here. If you want to talk to one of us on the phone, then you can call us at 877, the number 4, and the word Populi, 877-4-Populi. Our support, we have phone and email support for all faculty and staff, email only support for students, and our hours are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Let me go into the knowledge base real quick because there's a few articles that I think are particularly helpful. Always pay attention to the promoted articles up here. This one, Getting Started with Your School's New Populi Site, puts all the tutorials for the different departments in one place so you can work through them, especially if you're starting, if you're new to your school or if you're starting your Populi from scratch. If someone needs to figure out how to log in, it's usually pretty self-explanatory, but you can send them this article and we'll tell them everything they need to know. And if you want to contact us, you forgot that number I told you, hopefully you memorized it, 877, the number 4 and the word Populi. But if not, you can click here and you can see that. And you can also find our number on our main webpage. If you like to watch videos, we have a YouTube channel. In fact, this is going to go on that YouTube channel as a live training event. We even have new feature posts sometimes, interviews, and so on. So you can dig into that. And finally, once you've gone through a lot of that, if you still have questions and you want some more webinar type attention, not phone or email, but you want to do a webinar with somebody, then you can reach out to support and ask them to connect you to your account manager. And it would be either me or Nick Holloway who would schedule a webinar with you, and we would go over your particular school or maybe a fake school and walk through whatever you're needing to work on. All right. If you only learned that, you learned a lot, because now you know how to get help. You know, you not only have been given a fish, but you've learned how to fish. So there you go. Let's jump in now to Bookstore. First off, I want to describe what Bookstore is and what it isn't. The Populi Bookstore is a point of sale software and an online bookstore that really lines up with a brick and mortar bookstore. So if you have your own inventory, you're selling items, whether you want to ship them and they get bought online, you ship them out, they get bought online and they pick them up at the store, or you have an actual cashier who runs things through your bookstore. And that's what this is for. It is not, we don't have our own inventory that we'll ship out for you. We don't have some kind of interface that's kind of the face of an Amazon store or anything like that. This is to help you run your brick and mortar bookstore. First thing you'll need to know there are two different roles that matter in Populi for the bookstore. One is bookstore and one is bookstore admin. Those are the two that help you manage your bookstore. Here's the differences. The bookstore admin role lets you see everything in bookstore except for the bookstore settings. So you can't really set things up unless you have the bookstore admin role. And then the bookstore role lets you run the store, but you can't go behind the scenes and mess around with the settings. So those are the two differences. If you are starting out, then you don't even have this highlighted. You're not going to see a bookstore link up here. And the reason for that is because not all schools use the bookstore and not all schools want students to get confused by a link up there. If you don't have it and you want to get it turned on, you're going to need to reach out to your school's account administrator, not account manager. I'm your account manager, or maybe Nick is. That's a Populi staff title. But I'm talking about someone who is local, on the ground at your school with the role of account administrator. An account administrator is kind of your liaison between Populi and your school. And they manage all the account settings, how you interact with us and different behind the scenes settings. If you're already an account manager, oh boy, gonna get you real confused. If you're already an account administrator or you know who your account administrator is, they will just need to go into their account and settings section, to their account settings section, and then under customizations. And here they can turn the bookstore on or off. Right now I have mine turned on, but I could have it turned off. If you don't have it turned on and you don't want it turned on quite yet because you want to set things up, then you can ask your Populi account administrator to give you this link, and it will let you go to the bookstore section, as long as you have the right roles, and start setting things up even though it's not enabled and visible. This bookstore link, let's go ahead and go to it, is really just, well, here. I can tell it to you and you can maybe memorize it, but it's your school's Populi URL. So for example, mine is schoolland.populyweb.com. So yours might be such and such something, yourschool.populyweb.com. And then it's a /bookstore. So if you type in your school's URL /bookstore, you will get there. And if you're logged in, then you'll be able to see your bookstore settings. So right now we're pretending that this bookstore thing is not even turned on. You can't even see it. You just need to bookmark this page so that you can get there when you need to, so you can set everything up that you need. And you're going to either ask your account administrator for that link, or you're just going to remember, oh, it's just my main URL, whatever my little url.populyweb.com/bookstore, and that will take me there. All right, once you have that, the first thing you want to do is set up your online payments. You're actually going to need the help of your financial admin to do this. And I'm going to breeze over this because I've talked about this before in our student billing section, and it's really more of a student billing setup thing. But you can set up payment gateways. You can even set up a very specific payment gateway for your bookstore, so it will go to a different bank account in case it's kind of a separate business. But you can set these up by connecting Populi to your credit card merchant, either Stripe or Authorize.net. Even if you don't want to have it connected, you don't want any online payments, you don't want to take credit card, there are two things that are required, and that is you need to set up your own privacy policy and your own refund policy. This is just a thing that you got to do if you're handling money. This is not Populi's privacy policy. This is your privacy policy, what you plan to do in order to keep that information private and then refund policy, what you do for refunds. So those you'll need to set up even if you don't do the rest. But if you want to do the rest, this is where you do it. Financial admin settings over here on the right under online payments, and then fill this out. Again, I want to get into Bookstore setup. So we won't go over this unless I get some specific questions later, because we already covered that in the student billing group training. All right, how do we set up Bookstore now? Remember, I said this might not be highlighted, so just make sure you know where you need to go, schooland.populiweb.com/bookstore or whatever your URL is, and you'll be able to go, if you're a Bookstore admin, to the admin section, and way down here under settings is where you need to go to start setting things up. First off, you're going to want to choose what your payment methods are. And by the way, I'm not going to go into all of these settings in detail. Some of these are pretty self-explanatory. And if you don't know what one is, it's really great just to highlight the text or maybe take a picture of it and send that off to support, and they'll be able to answer you on one of those one-off basis. Or you could, there's articles on this in the Help Center too. But I just want to go to kind of the main ones that you need to know about. One is payment methods. And you cannot, before you can actually accept credit cards, you need to set up that payment gateway and financial and settings where I just showed you. And so you can collect all three if you want, or you could say, now we just do credit cards, whatever you want to do. Make sure you hit save settings after you've entered that. Bookstore greeting, this just shows up at the front of your Bookstore page. You need an income account. This is something else you're also going to interact with the financial admin, because they're going to need to set up certain accounts for you in the chart of accounts, and then you'll pull them in here. So what's your default income account? Hopefully they set one up for you. That is called Bookstore income. What about tax? This needs to be a liability account, not an income account. Maybe hopefully they set one up for you called Bookstore tax. How do they want your inventory cost flow to work? First in, first out. So FIFO or LIFO. If you don't know what that means, totally fine. Ask your financial admin or your bookkeeper, and they'll be able to help you. Inventory asset account. What is that? How about purchases? How about shrinkage and cost of goods sold? Populi almost uses no expense accounts on our chart of accounts because we're not really a full accounting package. We don't do payroll and your light bill and all that kind of stuff. But there are two expense accounts you will need to create. And so this might be the financial admin's first time creating an expense account. And that will be one for inventory shrinkage in case you have damaged inventory, or cost of goods sold. Let's see. I think those are the main things. This is always good too. Make sure you have someone's email in here for order notification emails so that you don't get something stuck. You just know whenever someone ordered something. You can manage how your shipping works and if there's a fee for shipping or not. Are students allowed to charge things to their account? And even just different tax rates, what your state is, and even if it's different by zip code. So those are all your settings you'll need to work through. That's kind of the biggest chunk of stuff you'll need to work through and set in. Next up, you're going to want to create some categories. You'll notice I have two here, books and clothing. We've got a home page where they can search any items they want. But if you want to make this a little more presentable for online users, and when they log in here and they want to buy stuff online, then you can create different categories and put certain items in those categories. So books and clothing, supplies could be another category. Swag could be another category. And I can add those out and decide to move these around in different orders, clothing first instead of books first. Or we might as well add supplies since we mentioned it. So there you go. Once you have your category, so it's looking the way you want, depending on how you set up your shipping settings, you're going to want to create some shipping methods. If you are shipping things out, what does it cost and how does it charge? Is it just a flat rate for that shipping? Is it per pound? Is it per item? What's going on? Do you have some shipping for international and some not? And what's your default? For now, my default is bookstore pickup. So by default, it's just going to show that they can come pick it up at the bookstore. And if they want, they can choose a shipping method. And I can add more shipping methods if I want for different prices and so on. Next up, if you want them, you can do discount codes. A discount code is just a code you can put in. Thanksgiving 20, something like that. How much does it discount? By a certain dollar amount, $25, or a percentage, 10%. What does it apply to? All items, or do I want to select certain things? Or maybe it applies to shipping. Maybe it's free shipping. And so this is actually 100%. Who gets it? All customers or certain roles? Maybe only the faculty get this one. Is there a minimum order required? Is there a maximum number of times this can be used? Can it be combined with other discount codes? And is this only allowed at the point of sale? So they have to be physically in the store talking to the cashier to use it, or can they be online and use it? What date do you want it to start, and when do you want it to expire? Hit save, and there you go. Return reasons. This is just what it sounds like. Let's see. Wrong size. We'll do that. And I can list a bunch of return reasons so that I can use that for reporting purposes and keeping track of my returns. All right, once I have my setup things all nailed down, the next thing I can do is start adding items to my bookstore. And this is kind of like a high level sort of template. So I can add an image, I can give it a name, description, what's its current status. Maybe right now it's hidden from shoppers because I'm not quite done setting it up, or we still have some inventory coming in and I'm not ready for it to be visible, or I can have it visible. Do I put which category is this going to go in? Books, clothing, or supplies? Remember those that show up here. Is it taxable or not? For books, what's the ISBN number? Internal use, if you want, you can put in your vendor. What's the income account? The default is the one you set up in your settings, but if you want on different items, you can choose a different income account. Can students charge this item to their account? This means that instead of the student actually giving you cash or a check or a credit card at the time they pay, they can opt in to charge it to their account. I think in our settings, we set it to 500 was the maximum a student could have charged of their account. And what that means is that they'll end up paying it the same way in the same time as they pay their tuition and fees and other things on their main school account. Is this an item that should be reported on the 1098T? If you don't know what that is, speak to your financial admin. And should this be a featured item? A featured item shows up at the top of the list. So here I've got 4 featured items. I don't know if I have any featured. Here I have 1 featured item in my book. So they'll show up right up here, front and center, or they can search or scroll down for the other pieces. Once I've got that all filled out, I can real quickly, if I want, add an inventory segment. So this is essentially creating inventory. It's creating a very specific amount of whatever that item is. And if there's different types of inventory, for example, let's say one is hardcover and has a certain SKU, and another is a paperback and has another SKU, then I can add those two as 2 different inventory segments for the same item. And I can fill out the price and weight and barcode. By the way, Populi works really great. Populi Bookstore works really great with a barcode scanner. So if you have something that you can hook up to your laptop or to your computer, and you actually just scan that barcode in, then you can do that right now, and it will put that number right there. Is there some initial inventory that you want to add here? And what's the cost per item? I want to fill out the other things too. And so maybe hardcover is a little more expensive than paperback. And then I can hit save. I could add more inventory segments if I want. I can hit save, and it will save this item along with the inventory, along with that initial inventory that I've already got. So if I'm a bookstore person, bookstore admin, I can even look up an item. Chicken. Stories Guide to Raising Chickens. I can see how much inventory is in stock. I can add an adjustment. So for example, let's say, I don't know, my student worker counted too few of these when they came in. So I actually have 3 more than I thought I did. And this is not a loss or damage thing. It's just, it was a miscount thing. And so I can batch that in. Or I could say we actually just lost 1, we want a negative, because staff dropped it or something like that. So I can adjust current inventory, or I can add a new batch of inventory. And this is going to default to whatever I'm currently looking at. So right now I'm looking at Story's Guide to Raising Chickens paperback. If I want to do a new inventory segment for hardcover, I would switch it to hardcover, add that batch there, and I can do a new cost per item if this new batch costs a little more or a little less than the previous. All right, once you have these things, and by the way, I can also look up items and edit them and go over them in detail. If I'm a student, then I can add them to my cart and buy them online if you've allowed that. Okay, so remember, Bookstore is still hidden. We're pretending that this link is not here. It's still hidden. I just know the secret link that gets me where I need to be, but students can't get there. And I'm adding all these things, filling it all out. And then once I'm ready, I should do a test run. And it works great with a barcode scanner. I don't have one on my computer right now, but I can start typing in, actually, instead of doing chickens, we'll do a blue foam hand. And I can put in a discount code if someone's here. This is if we're out of point of sales, and I can do whoever my fake customer is. If I've got a barcode scanner, I could scan their ID card and this will work. If I have a scanner that's a credit card swiper scanner, I could swipe that in, or I could charge it all to Simon's student's account, and then I can complete checkout. And you want to do one of these test transactions just to see if it actually works for you and if everything's going according to plan. This will actually charge something through a credit card to your credit card merchant that you'll have to note that was for testing purposes, but it is a good idea to go through and test it just to make sure everything's set up properly. Okay, now that we've got everything set up properly, we've run a test, then you can reach out to your account administrator one more time and say, hey, can you actually go live? Let's do it. And we'll go to account settings, customization, switch this over to yes, and they'll hit save settings. And now this will show up and everyone can access the bookstore just like you without having to need that special link. If you need to return an item, you're going to do the same kind of thing here, except instead of just starting out and scanning an item to buy, I'm going to instead switch it to return. And that will change it here so that I can scan an item to return, or I can search it. And there is also a way. So let's say they brought me Story's Guide to Raising Chickens hardcover. Populi will try and find an order for this person. We don't even have a customer name in here. So Populi is like, yeah, who is this? Who wants it returned? I could type in the customer name, or I could even look at Populi's list. They'll produce a list for me and I can see, oh, is it this one? I can click on that. We'll open a new tab. I can dig into it, see who this person is. Yep, all the same transaction. Yep, this is the order that we're trying to undo. And then I can check that box and Populi will link up that order. What's the refund? Is it cash or is it to his account? And then remember those return reasons. That doesn't really make sense for Story's Guide to Raising Chickens, but we can pull one of those up like the wrong size. Also notice because on that order form it showed Simon, it's going to put him right here too. So this is now going to refund to his student account, which is same place he's going to pay tuition and fees. And so he'll get a credit on his account over there. And I can complete the checkout. I also could say that he wants to, in the same transaction, buy a blue foam hand. And we'll charge that to his account too. And so now we can complete that checkout and make it go. All right. One final thing that I think is really handy, there are some reporting tools in here. Another way we could do it is if items have been returned, you can look up returned items here and they'll get put in a certain category. If you just leave them here, they'll count as inventory shrinkage. If I want to return it to inventory, I can apply that here and that will send it back into the inventory so that it can be sold again. So all my returns are then going to be in a place where I can see them under returned items. And there's one other thing I wanted to go over, and that is if you have any pending orders, like someone ordered something online, then I can see those here and process those. Here's the order number. I can look into it. And this is going to be placed on his account and charged to this particular term. I can print it out if I want, add some notes here if I want, or I can void it. And I can also email the customer saying this order is ready for pickup. And it automatically gets marked fulfilled once it's fulfilled. One last thing I think is really cool. There's some reports in here, but one thing that's cool is as faculty are entering into their courses, they can put in ISBN numbers for books they want to use on their reading list. If they put in that ISBN number, then it's easy for Populi to match up that book with books you might have in your bookstore. Or maybe you don't and you want to add them to your bookstore. You have this little list here called term book list. And so I can pull up a certain academic term and then it will give me a list of all courses that have a particular book in them. So for example, Architecture 253 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books in it. And I don't have any other courses with books in it. And it shows me the author, publisher, ISBN number. And then for that particular course, I can see that there are 0 students enrolled right now and 0 auditing. Here I've got 9 enrolled, 9 enrolled, 9 enrolled, 9 enrolled. And then optional means this book was marked as an optional book for this course, not a required book. So there's 9 students in the course and but it's just an optional book. 9 students in the course and they're enrolled, it's required book. And then I can hit add and do a quick inventory segment. All right, any questions on Bookstore? We got a question. Kelly says, is there a way for the Bookstore admin to see a list of courses that will be offered for a semester? There is not a way that the Bookstore admin can see what courses a certain semester has. Even if the professor hasn't put their books in Populi yet. No, unfortunately, the only way that this was going to come through is if the professor has put their books in. So we consider that to be academic data. By the way, we also have this for supplies, if you do have supplies in your bookstore. We consider that to be academic data, so we don't show you a list. There are ways, it's pretty easy for the registrar to get you a list of those courses. There's also ways, I believe, for the registrar to make certain term schedules public. So like if you wanted to embed the courses for a particular term into your website so students can see those, that could happen. And then you'd be able to go to your website and see them. But it's up to the registrar or academic admin to be able to release that information. It's not built in. Good question. All right, very good. If you have any questions, reach out to support. If you want to get into a webinar, reach out to your account manager and schedule something with them. And of course, there's lots of ways you can research on your own through our knowledge base and over YouTube. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time. All right, take care. Bye.